Hello, welcome back to another episode of La Gringa y La Chapina, and I am La Gringa, Hadley Bajramovic, and
Hola, soy Zayra Ivette Padilla, La Chapina. Mucho gusto.
are you still in the jungle, Zayra? Okay, well, I'm in South Carolina, and while I'm here, if any of our
You're in
viewers,
Chapin.
yeah,
You're
I'm
in
in, yep,
Chapin.
I'm in Chapping. That is exactly right. I didn't even get that when you said that earlier, Zayra.
Really?
Chapin,
Yep, you're in
Chapin. Oh
Chapin.
my God. Wow. Yeah, I am in Chapin, so I am a Chapina now in South Carolina. So anybody in the South Carolina area that would like to reach out to me and meet with me, you are more than welcome to reach out to us, and I will do my best to come and meet you somewhere. And La Chapina can join us by FaceTime or Teams so that you can meet with both of us to discuss your immigration case.
Yes, please do.
Yes. So we had a very significant and important event happen over the weekend. Was I've told this story like 10 times, but we started last week processing the new parole in place, keeping families together for individuals married to U.S. citizens as of June 17, 2024. We started filing them a week ago on August 19th, and everything was going smoothly. And then Friday, we found out that there was a lawsuit filed by 14 states, and uh, nothing seemed to be affected as of that moment when we did our podcast on Friday. The USCIS was still accepting petitions. And then I got on an airplane, and I landed, and I got a message that an injunction was filed. And at first I thought the injunction was granted, and I was in a panic. I was walking through the Atlanta airport at 5 o'clock in the morning thinking, oh God, what we're gonna do? All these people, 550,000 people, 50,000 kids. And then
Mm-hmm.
I went and read the order and realized the injunction was stayed until October 3rd, and like the sun came out. It was like, what a relief, because we now have certainty that we didn't have even before the lawsuit was filed. So the
Mm-hmm.
certainty is that we know we can file up to October 3rd. We can get as many filed. You don't have to have everything ready. You can go online and file your application. And as of October 23rd, we'll know if we can continue to file. But we go back to the W. What are you waiting for? Now we know you can file. And once you file, then we hope that you're good. I believe that there won't be any stopping of processing of cases that are already filed, given the history with DACA and other forms of relief that went through similar challenges. What do you think, Zayra?
Yeah, like I know we've been talking about it, and you guys, I guess, heard us so many times, and really making sure that you understand how important this is to take the time to do this process to apply for it. Like we explained to you before, this is all a complete electronic filing. That's why we encourage you to proper representation with an experienced immigration attorney. And this is even more important for us now for you to do it now. Don't wait. Like we say, what are you waiting for? This is so important. Like like Hadley said, we every time we see something that it's going on with different immigration processes, we always go into a panic mode. What's going to happen? How is this going to affect our clients? We're in a constant change in this type of laws, so that's why it's so important for you to take advantage of this process that is available. We know they're processing like they are normally. We already saw an approval, which it only took a day to get approved. We think they already had a process and a waiver approval, which is the I-601A approval, waiver approval. So we know that, okay, so you have a waiver pending that might, speed up the process. And if you already have a waiver approval, then it's even more important for you to take this chance and process this case. Sabemos lo importante que es para que ustedes comiencen este proceso. Lo hemos recalcado muchas veces, tal vez ya sonamos como disco rayado, como decimos en español, pero es tan importante que ustedes tomen partido de este proceso que está disponible para ustedes. Como dijimos, personas que están casados con un ciudadano, que estén casados desde junio 17 del 2024 y que estén físicamente en el país desde el 2014 para acá. Mucha gente dice, oh, yo tengo 20 años de estar acá. Bueno, qué bueno, pero lo que van a considerar es desde 2014 para este año, para acá, digamos, 10 años exactamente. Entonces, por favor, ustedes han visto las noticias. Primero fue una demanda, ahora fue, como quien dice, un paro para este proceso, que significa que está disponible para que solicitemos hasta el 23 de octubre. Así que queremos recalcar nuevamente, por favor, soliciten, busquen ayuda profesional de un abogado con experiencia que sepa hacer estos procesos, porque va a ser todo, está siendo enviado todo electrónicamente. Hace una semana que comenzamos a solicitar este beneficio, así que por favor háganlo, no esperen, porque lamentablemente el hubiera no existe. Y sabemos que eso ha pasado muchísimas personas que para mañana, o no estoy segura, o qué tal pasa esto, qué pasa el otro. Por favor, háganlo hoy, no esperen para mañana, por favor.
Zayra, we started working at the consulate of Mexico like around 2014. We did that for many years. We were there every Thursday meeting people, and we were seeing people there that were qualified for DACA. What was their main reasons for not moving forward? I mean, I know that money always, well,
It was, yeah, it was money. It was like my parents, they don't want to do it, or they don't have the money to do it. A lot of them, they obviously rely on their parents because they were minors. So that's why a lot of them, they didn't apply, or because of that. But I think it was mainly that, that they didn't take the time to find out what was going on. Also, they were afraid that they were gonna expose themselves, put themselves in the radar of ICE, or immigration. They're like, I'm gonna give them my entire life information, and how do I know they're not gonna take that to come and pick me up, including the rest of my family? So that was a big uncertainty for them too, because they were like, I don't want to expose myself or my family. How do I know this is not gonna be like this? So it took a little bit for them to really realize that this was a process that they could apply, that it was going to be approved, and that they were going to be able to get a work permit. Like many DACAs, they didn't find out that they were not U.S. citizens until they were 18, or maybe
that was a
a little
problem.
bit before. Yeah, but they're like, Mom, like, give me my social security card that I need to apply for a work permit. I mean, for a job, or I need to go to a university and need my social security number. They're like, oh, well, you don't have one. Why? Because you were not born here. So it was just like, really heartbreaking for many
That
people
happens a
that,
lot.
yeah, so they were like, I was born here, I was raised here. How come, I can't do all these things that regular people can, So it was really hard for many of our DACAs to find out until, this process came about, that they were not U.S. citizens, that they were not born in the U.S. So it was really, hard for them in general.
Yeah, and then around 2017, we lost DACA through an injunction. And then we had people coming in wanting to apply, and we had to tell them, sorry, if you had applied before the injunction, you would have been fine. And, that
Yeah.
was 4 years. 4 years people were allowed to apply, and those people are still renewing their DACAs. And that's why we're saying, what are you waiting for? Please apply, because our experience in the past, which we're relying on now because we don't have anything else to rely on, tells us that if you apply, then you are probably going to get the relief. And we don't want you to have that same problem on October 24th, where you come to us and we have to say,
Yes.
Sorry. I mean, we hope that October 3rd will not be the last day you can file, but that is the way it appears now, that the two sides of the lawsuit, the two parties have until October 23rd to submit their briefs. The issue is standing. That means, do these 14 states have the legal right to bring this suit? And
Mm-hmm.
if they prove that they do, then the injunction might move forward. So we have almost 2 months for everyone to submit this application.
And I know that most of the people that we've talked, they do want to move forward. They do want to apply as soon as possible. Like we had a consultation today that this gentleman is actually waiting for his interview in Juarez. And he's like, no, I much rather, do the process here instead of going out. And he was unfortunately working with a notario, so he was already, not in good hands. So he proceeded with like, yeah, I want to start this process ASAP. And, they see the importance and the difference between going out to your home country after 20, 30 years of being here, risking having the chance of getting stuck in your home country. So that's why it's so like 99% of our clients or new clients are actually saying, no, I want to do this process here. I'm going to stay in this country. That's a better option for me. So definitely we've seen that, people are really reacting very positive to this process, and they want to do it as soon as possible. And why wait?
Yeah. And now that we have been filing them for a week, we know more about the application itself. It takes around 2 hours to submit. The issue that I asked my staff to work out with me is, how is it important for somebody to use an attorney? And I'm sorry, I'm trying to get to my notes about this because it's pretty complicated. We
Mm-hmm.
know that a lot of people are filing on their own, but it does seem to be risky. It's administrative law. There's a high risk of error in any kind
Mm-hmm.
of administrative filing that involves legal issues. So that's the number one reason, high risk of error. And what happens if you commit an error? So one of the ways that one of our senior paralegals framed it, I love this. This form is not a simple survey. Even though the questions may seem straightforward, they actually involve legal terminology, and many answers require a legal analysis. That's true for any form. Any form. Like, how do I answer this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because the questions and the answers are derived specifically from legislative language that was
Mm-hmm.
then reworked through regulation by the USCIS. And so it's not always obvious what the question means or what the answer should be. So, for example, continuous physical presence. I mean, that's an everyday thing that we say. We know exactly what that means, but that's probably not an everyday term
Mm-hmm.
for the
For
layperson.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. Removal proceedings and removal orders are very complex, and people who have an executed removal order are not eligible. People who have an unexecuted removal order are eligible, and the layperson doesn't know the difference.
Yeah, like many. I'm sorry, Hadley. Many
No,
clients
go
like
ahead.
they don't also know that like the well, obviously the terminology, but also the form names, the form numbers. They forget those things. Like we had a consultation today with Layla, and I kept asking them, have you filed? We had a FOIA in front of us. So Layla was like, I see that you apply for an adjustment of status here. Do you apply for it? And I asked them, have you applied? No, I never did. Even on the pre-screening, I asked them, have you ever applied for any benefit? No, I never did. So we kept asking, and then they kept saying, after the FOIA, I haven't done anything, but have you applied before? And, it took us a while for them to understand what we were talking about. They're like, oh, yeah, I did through a notario, Hermandad Mexicana.
Yeah.
And they finally told us that, yeah, they filed and it was denied. And those kind of, cases, we understand that most of the our regular people, they don't even remember the form name, not even like more complicated terminology. So we know that that's why it's so important for you to find a legal representative and experienced attorney to help you understand this. Hopefully you'll get one that will explain and take the time for you to understand what's going on and what form are you applying, because we know that so many people have come to our office and never heard of the forms or the explanation that we give them, because the attorney that they went to, or the notario, or the so-called attorney that they thought it was an attorney, never explained anything to them.
Exactly. Can you explain that to our Spanish speaking community?
Sí,
Sorry.
entonces lo que estamos hablando con Hadley, la gringa, es de que lo importante que ustedes, sabemos que hay muchas personas que están solicitando este beneficio por sí solos. A nuestro compañero que es experto en este proceso y que lleva mucho tiempo de estar haciendo estas cosas, nos dice, esto de ninguna forma se puede, requiere mucha información, muchos términos legales que tienen que entender la persona que está solicitando para poder contestar las preguntas o la información correctamente. Entonces, por esa razón, esta es una ley administrativa que significa que hay un promedio muy alto que usted cometa un error en este tipo de solicitudes. Así que sabemos que es complicado, que los términos son complicados, en sí, en general, el acto de ley es complicado. Entonces, por eso es muy importante y recalcamos nuevamente lo importante que es que ustedes obtengan orientación de una persona profesional, de un abogado profesional con experiencia que les ayuda a hacer este tipo de solicitud. No es, yo le he visto y no es complicada, la solicitud tal vez es 3 páginas, no importa si es una página, pero si usted pone información que es incorrecta, al final de cuentas, el perjudicado va a ser usted. Así que por eso es tan importante que usted tome el tiempo con experiencia y que lo sepa representar en este proceso, porque igualmente sabemos que mucha gente está solicitando por su cuenta, pero es muy importante que usted solicite ayuda con un profesional. Platicaba un poco con Hadley de que hoy tuvimos una consulta con un cliente y tuvimos que repetirle una y otra vez la misma pregunta hasta que por fin dijo, sí, solicité un ajuste migratorio, pero fue con un notario y después de eso ya no hicimos nada, pero eso nos tomó como 10, 15 minutos de explicar una y otra vez lo que era de que estábamos platicando, hasta por fin el cliente entendió. Entonces sabemos que esto es complejo, sabemos que una persona común y corriente no va a entender la terminología, la ley, los números de forma, cómo se llaman las solicitudes, sabemos que es complejo, así que no esperamos tampoco que usted sea un experto en este ámbito.
And these cases can also take an unexpected turn if there's criminality, not only removal proceedings, but criminality. Some crimes will cause a presumption of ineligibility. That means that there's discretion involved. So you can convince an officer to approve, grant parole in place with positive equities. Positive equities means basically good things about your life, or that mean that the officer should weigh more heavily the positive things about your life over the criminal things that might have happened.
So negative.
And yeah, over the negative equities. But yeah, so the presumption means that you're not automatically disqualified. The officer just presumes that maybe you're ineligible. So we are able to submit proof of maybe being part of a church group or a soccer coach or having family members, extended family. All of those things are part of an inexhaustive list of positive equities that could turn the case around. And this is why you need an attorney.
Sí,
Anyway,
es tan importante, nuevamente quiero tomar el tiempo para platicar lo importante que es de que también se tome en consideración que usted va a presentar a su mejor yo. Entonces, ¿qué aporto yo al país? Soy buena persona, de buen carácter moral, soy voluntario en diferentes organizaciones, voy a la iglesia. Entonces, si digamos, eso tiene que pesar, lo bueno de usted tiene que pesar más que lo malo. Entonces, por eso es tan importante que busque a alguien que le ayude en este proceso, porque si usted tiene antecedentes penales, usted tiene que, como quien dice, poner en una balanza todo lo bueno y que en esa balanza pese más lo bueno de usted que lo malo. Entonces, por eso es tan importante, nuevamente, valga la redundancia, de que ponga busca la ayuda profesional y que esa persona le ayude a decir, mira, tenés esto, tenés historial criminal, pero miro que durante 10 años has estado, sos una buena persona, buen carácter moral, vas a la iglesia, tenés todo este tipo de cosas buenas en tu vida. Entonces, por esa razón es muy importante que usted tome eso en cuenta. No es como, tengo una multa o hizo esto y no creo que va a importar. No, la inmigración eso es muy importante, así que por favor ayúde.
So just to recap, Zayra, because we jumped right in about parole in place, keeping families together, but let's just remind everybody what we're talking about. This grant of a parole in place will give the applicant a legal entry. So most of the people that are here undocumented entered without inspection. They do not have legal entries. So we can now obtain a legal entry very quickly, like Zayra mentioned, even in a day, we've seen approvals in 24 hours. And once somebody has the legal entry, then they're considered paroled into the US. That means a status. Okay, you're no longer undocumented. And for people who have DACA, you're also technically not in DACA anymore because this is a status inside the US. And through that status, you can apply for work authorization. But most importantly, you can apply for adjustment of status into a green card if you have a US citizen spouse, which is what is required to get the grant, and adjust into a green card within a year. That's what the normal processing time is for this case. So there's no requirement that you leave because you're in status. You have a legal entry too. Even if your status runs out in 3 years, which is what the parole grants, 3 years of status, you can still file for a green card 3 years from now after the status expires because you have a legal entry. So it's a game changer. And we want you to apply before October.
And I see a lot of in social media, a lot of people ask questions like, I'm on the process of the waiver. Can I still apply for this process? Because a lot of people think like you can only do one thing, let's say.
No.
And that's the beauty about immigration law, that you can apply for as many benefits as you're eligible.
Yeah.
So that's one of the questions that I see a lot, like, oh, can I do it? Or I've been married with my husband and, since maybe like few days before the 17th or something like that. Am I still eligible?
Yeah.
I've been here for 20 years. Like, okay, kind of thing. Those kind of questions that people. So one of the things that I see a lot is that I'm already in a process. Can I still do this process?
Yeah, we had to talk to about 40 of our clients that have the waiver pending and tell them, guess what? We have another process. We know you're in this current process, but there's something new. We know you spent a lot of money
And better.
on this current process, but this new thing is better. And then we found out that because people have started the waiver and have been to fingerprinting appointments and have already been vetted, they seem to be approved faster. So there is an advantage actually to already having a process either pending or approved.
Sí, queremos recalcar de que muchas personas se cuestionan si pueden solicitar más de un beneficio al mismo tiempo. Por ejemplo, tengo el perdón en proceso, o ya tengo el perdón aprobado, o estoy esperando mi cita en Juárez, o ya la petición la I-130 ya hice, ¿puedo solicitar este beneficio? Y sí. Lo bonito, digamos, de este proceso de la ley migratoria, perdón, es de que usted puede solicitar media vez a usted le aplique el proceso, usted puede tener 3 procesos pendientes, no importa, lo puede hacer. Entonces, por eso es tan importante que entienda que sí, usted puede solicitar este beneficio y hágalo lo más pronto posible, a pesar de que tiene 1 o 2 procesos ya en pie, no importa, usted puede solicitarlo y lo bonito de esto es de que usted va a hacer todo entre Estados Unidos, le van a dar un permiso de entrada al país, que significa que usted es considerado, tiene un estatus por el hecho de que le dieron permiso bajo palabra, y le dan esa entrada legal al país, que es la que usted no tiene y que por esa razón usted no puede hacer un ajuste migratorio entre Estados Unidos. Así que por eso es tan importante de informarse, de saber qué me aplica, qué no, y como le vuelvo a recalcar, el hecho de que usted tiene ya un proceso en pie o ya está, como quien dice, esperando su cita a Juárez, usted todavía puede recibir este beneficio y ya evitarse salir a su país de origen, estar con esa incertidumbre de no saber si va a regresar, qué pasa si me lo niegan o lo que sea. Ese proceso se haría dentro de Estados Unidos si usted no tuviera que temer de quedarse fuera en su país, después de que yo he vivido toda una vida aquí en este país, como me voy a dejar a mi familia, a mis hijos. Este proceso se haría todo dentro de Estados Unidos si usted recibiera su residencia adentro de Estados Unidos.
Anything else that you think we should address from what you're seeing online, Zayra? I mean, the June 17th is important.
Yeah, the removals, like we have
Okay.
explained that we now know that if an removal was executed, that you're unfortunately not eligible for this. Which I have family members that have been asking me these things, and unfortunately, they can't apply.
Yeah, and executed means that once ordered removed either by the CBP or an immigration judge, once you're removed, it's executed. And there are still hundreds of thousands of people with removal orders in the US who have not left. Those are unexecuted. And people who are still here that were not actually removed are eligible.
Yeah, and the other ones is like same thing with criminality, certain criminal offenses. Again, seek advice from an experienced attorney, because you will need, especially in those situations, you will need a representative, because it's not a straightforward case like many of them might be. So
Yeah.
that's a lot of the questions is like, I have this, am I eligible? I have a DU, I have, I don't know, possession or things like that. There's a
Domestic
lot of questions
violence.
about the
Yeah, we have a lot of,
domestic
and
violence.
domestic violence is not an easy analysis. We have to look at the criminal court dispositions to determine whether or not the applicant is eligible. We can't even just give you an answer. If you tell me you have domestic violence, I have to look at the court documents. So yeah, these are all the reasons why you
See,
need an attorney.
yes. Oh, yeah. We also have the belief that a lot of people believe that after 7 years or 10 years,
Yeah.
things get just erased out of your background, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
no, they don't.
Yeah,
So
no, they
we have
don't.
to tell so many people, like, no, I was told that after 7 years, I paid everything. It was just erased from my background. We're like, no, I don't know where you get that information, but that's not
I
true.
think they get it from credit reports, Zyra, because I think that's where it comes from. Like,
Really?
if you
Oh
have
yeah.
some
Oh
bad
yeah.
debt or
7 years
something,
after your bankruptcy.
yeah, and after 7 years, like you have bad debt and it comes off of your credit report and it sort of recycles. I think that's where people think, well, oh, I murdered somebody, but it was more than 7 years ago. Didn't it fall off? Or I
Igualmente.
was married.
Uh-huh.
My favorite one now is, and I've heard this so many times in the past couple of weeks. I
Uh-huh.
married them in Mexico. I moved here, but that was 20 years ago. Aren't you divorced? Well, 7 years has passed. I'm like, no, no.
Or they also think that if they marry somewhere else, that is not valid. No,
Yeah,
you can be married in
yeah,
China and still be valid here in the US, kind
exactly.
of
That's
thing.
a
So
good thing to bring up is full faith and credit. The United States recognizes marriages that were valid in a foreign jurisdiction as long as a foreign
Mhm.
jurisdiction recognizes it as a valid marriage. So,
Mhm.
yeah, still need a divorce. And people, you
Yeah.
can get divorced in
Mhm.
the US.
Yeah, also too, they also believe that they have to go back to their home country, and they can't, obviously,
Yeah,
and get divorced there, that they have to go to their home country to get divorced because they got married in their home country. We're like,
yeah,
no, you don't have to go back to your home country. Anyway, you can't. But they also believe that they have to go back to their home country because that's where they got married.
yeah. That's come up quite a bit lately.
Yes. No me sacaron a Tijuana, aunque era de Guatemala o de El Salvador, lo que sea. Entonces usted sí va a poder recibir este beneficio, pero las personas que sí físicamente la sacaron del país, haya sido a México, aunque no eran mexicanos, eran guatemaltecos o lo que sea, suramericanos, todas maneras esa orden de deportación se cumplió, por decir, y lamentablemente usted no podría solicitar. E igualmente, si ustedes tienen antecedentes penales, por favor, no soliciten por su cuenta, porque va a ser un proceso bastante difícil si usted lo hace así, porque va a cometer errores y va a poner información que no es correcta. Igualmente, personas que tienen antecedentes penales, órdenes de deportación que no hayan sido, perdón, make sure they're not victims of fraud. They're not defrauded, because we know that a lot of people, they're going to go to some notario or some paralegal or an ex-USCIS officer, and they're going to apply for it even though they're not eligible, because, that's what people who don't care about other people do. We know that a lot of people
That's
have
frightening.
done that before. So it's very important for you to keep keep updating yourself, get good resources, go to community centers that are reliable, and make sure you get the proper information, because we know that a lot of people are going to take their chance to get easy money from people that really are looking to find a way to get this process, even though they're not eligible. They're going to claim they're eligible, but you're not.
The wrong help can hurt. So if you guys want to talk to us, we do free consultations. All the information about how to contact us will show up in this video. So we look forward to talking to you, and please send us your questions and we will answer them. Thank you, everybody.
Muy bien. Go ahead, Hadley.
Just going to say good night, everybody.
Feliz
We'll be
noche,
back tomorrow.
gracias.
Bye-bye.
Chao.